Hi, everybody. I needed to make a video for a lot of people in the past because this vocabulary is something that's very different from how most people have studied vocabulary in the past. And if you'll see at the bottom, right below where I've got my webcam going on, I've got the textbook title and the page number that I want you to turn to. Your textbook looks like this. Let me see if I can get it in the webcam here. Yeah, it's the word within the word text. It's the thickest textbook that we have. And you are going to be turning with me to page 2 because we're looking at the very first page, and it's got the list of vocabulary stems right here, and then their definitions, and then some examples of some words. We're looking at the first week's words because we need to start off on the right foot with studying these vocabulary stems. Now, when I say stem, I mean it can be a prefix of a word, it can be a suffix of the word, or it could be the root of a word. So we just call them stems because it can apply to any part of the word that we're studying. So we're looking at these Greek and Latin, and then we've got a couple of Old English and Germanic derivations from words here. But I'm going to show you how best to study for these vocabulary lessons. And like I said, this is going to be different than what you normally are used to studying through vocabulary because I'm not giving you a whole word to memorize the definition of. I'm giving you a piece of a word to memorize what that piece of the word means. So as you can see, I've got my 3x5 cards here. I've got about 25 of them made for the 25 stems that we have on page 2 is where I am. And my very first one is Anta. And what I've done on the very front of the card is I put the root of the word. And if you'll look on page 2, these are the ones in the very far left-hand column in bold. So Anta is the first one. Now on the back of this card, I have put in parentheses my definition. Now, if you'll notice, most of these stems have single word definitions. So Anta means before. And so what I did was instead of putting Anta on one side and before without the parentheses, I put the parentheses to show myself, since it's in parentheses on page 2, I'm showing myself that this is indeed the definition right here instead of the actual stem of the word that I need to memorize. So Anta means before. Then I go on to my next one. Anti means against, and you guys get the idea, so on and so forth as you go down the list there. Like I said, there are 25 per week. You do this, and you'll be able to figure out just about anything you need to for any of these words, and it gives you some examples of some words. I'm going to go down to by, which is our third. Let's see, let me find my card here. Got by, which means to. You probably already knew that because you know what a bicycle means. You've got some examples of some words where they have used the stem by. Some of these words you might recognize, some of them you may not recognize, but hopefully by knowing the stem by now, you will be able to figure out what some of these words mean. Bilateral. Now, you may not know what the rest of the word lateral means, but you know that bi means to it, so it's two of something. Bicycle. You probably know that bicycle means a mode of transportation with two wheels. Let's see. Binary is another one. Bimonthly. So something that comes twice a month, something that is bi-monthly. A biped is something that has two, and you'll learn later on because we learn ped later on. You know that ped is feet. So something that's a biped is something that has 2 feet. Bipolar, two polar ends. Binocular, two, we've got binoculars because we look through two things in a binocular. So those are examples of words, but you do not have to know all of those words on the page. The only thing you are responsible to know is this stem and this definition. So don't be thrown off by all of these extra words on page 2. They're just examples of how you can put this stem into some words. You can look through all the rest of these pages yourself, and they've got some really great stuff in there. But the main thing that I want you guys to know is how to study for these definitions. And like I said, I've made cards like this. You can do physical cards like this. You can use Quizlet if you want to, or any other form of flashcard software or method or anything like that that you want to. Now, This is for week 1. What happens in week 2 when I have to add 25 more cards to this deck? Okay, so 50 cards isn't all that much, but then we go on into the next week, week 3. Then I have 75 cards. Wow, then in week 4, I've got 100 cards, because what we're going to be doing is you're going to continue to study these, one deck right on after the other. But here's the good news. Once you know a definition, I want you to take that part out of your deck. So maybe I need to still study some more that anta means before. I'm not so familiar with that one. Anti. Maybe I'm more familiar with this one because I know that something that is anti is something that is against. If I can master that, I'm going to take this out of my deck and lay it aside so that I've mastered it. Same thing with bi. Bi, I know, means two because I knew what bicycle meant. Okay, so I'm going to lay that one aside. I'm going to take that out of my deck. So far, I've only kept anta for the next week because I haven't really mastered that one yet, for example. And then I've got circum. That one's kind of new. I know that circumference is something that we do in geometry for circles, so that means around. I can kind of remember that one, but maybe I need to keep this in my deck to study for week 2 and beyond. So I'm going to keep that one in my deck to study more. Same thing with calm. Maybe I can remember that calm means together. Maybe I can't. So if I've not truly mastered that yet, I'm going to keep it around for the coming weeks. But as soon as I master something, as soon as I master that, let's see, I know that tri is way down here at the bottom. I know what a tricycle is. I know that tri means 3. I'm going to take that one out. I'm going to cull it from my deck, take it away. So that is how you're going to study from here on in the coming weeks. I do want you to keep the ones and study them if you have not mastered them, but as soon as you master them, you can take them out and you can keep them in a box, or you can even throw them away if you want to. But the goal is by the end of this school year, you will have mastered all of these stems so that you can put all of these different words together and figure out all these different words. This is something that is a learning curve, so please don't get frustrated with yourself if you don't get it right off the bat, but use these tips and use these, these study methods, and you should be just fine. Happy studying with your vocabulary stems. See you in class.